Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and today we're going to talk about my most used palettes of the year so far for 2024. So if you're interested to see what I've reached for over everything else in a collection of hundreds of palettes, keep on watching. Before we get too far into the video, if you have not already, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. I upload videos twice a week. It is totally free to subscribe and I would love to have you back again on the channel in the future to talk all things makeup in the comments. And if you are a returning subscriber, thanks so much for coming back, hanging out. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoy the content. Okay, so since I have a collection of, like I said, hundreds of palettes, just because these are my most used palettes doesn't mean I've used them a ton each, right? Because you think about it, there's only so many days a month. I only have 2 eyeballs. I'm only doing 1 look a day. So I haven't used any of these palettes more than 10 total times is the most used for any of these palettes. Got 6 total just because when I was looking at most to least, there were a bunch that were tied and I was just going to do 5 palettes, but 4 of these palettes tied for the same amount of uses, so I've got 6 here. So the bottom 4 most used, I used these all only 4 times, which I know is like, okay, that's not even a week, but there's so many palettes that I've used already this year. I've been tracking in my notebook here. I've used so far for the first 6 months of 2024, 42 palettes total. So these are the 6 that I've used the most out of 42 palettes. So the first one is an oldie, but it's one of my absolute favorites in my collection. It is the Plain Jane palette by Adept Cosmetics. This was my very first purchase from the brand, and it is the one that got my love affair started, and I have gone back over and over and over and over again, just loving this brand. I absolutely love their ACI formula. It is my favorite shimmer formula of all time, any brand, high-end, indie, prestige, drugstore, you name it. And I just love the colors, the formula, everything about these. I think ACI 2 is probably my most used shade in this, but this is just a lovely companion palette. It's also super easy to just do one shimmer shade all over the lid, especially because they are so shifty, and to just leave it at that and let the shade speak for itself. So love this one. I believe they still sell the Plain Jane remastered version if you're interested in this palette. Also at 4 uses was my #1 palette from last month, the month of May, in my monthly palette ranking. I will leave that video linked if you have not seen it yet. But this was my first and only purchase I've made from MBA Cosmetics. This was their collab with Basket Case Beauty, and it is the Moonlit Marsh palette. And I have absolutely been loving this unique color story. The shimmers are also very, very good quality, but again, it's just more the theming and just the array of shades that have really continued to spark my creativity. I still definitely have not done all of the combinations I've got in my mind for that palette, but it is so cool. I think right now it says that it's returning soon. It's not available, but they are planning to bring this one back. So I would keep an eye on their Instagram page. I feel like that's probably the most up-to-date place you're gonna find information for MBA Cosmetics and a lot of indie brands. Third, tied in that 4 uses category from Glaminatrix Cosmetics is the Sugar and Spice palette. Oh, I couldn't put this one down when I first got it earlier this year. Again, I just really love the color story with these like springy pops. The shimmers are excellent. And I'm either gonna pair this one or another Glaminatrix palette coming up with, I think, another palette in this video that might be my wedding makeup. If I use this one, it's gonna be Nutmeg if I end up using this one, because the shimmers are just exceptional in this one, and really all Glaminatrix palettes. I don't know if this one is available, I'm sorry, but usually even if the palettes aren't available, Glaminatrix does tend to keep a lot of the shades that were in palettes as singles kicking around on their site, so you could always check in their singles section. Now here is the last one that was tied for 4 uses. It is the Lunar Beauty Nude Prism. And I've been playing with this one a lot because I've been practicing for my wedding makeup. I'm going to do my own makeup. My wedding is on Saturday. this week, and I'm filming this the day it's going up. So I think I'm going to do more like blushy mattes with maybe like a warm one in the outer corner, and using a mixture of maybe like the brown and the black to do a shadow liner. But I like the Glaminatrix shimmers better, so I'm definitely going to use the mattes from this palette because I do like them, and those rosy undertones for that kind of like blushing bride kind of look. And then I'm either going to use shimmers from the Sugar and Spice that I just showed you, or the next palette. The next palette I've used 8 times so far, and this was actually my #1 most used palette of 2023. I'll leave that video linked as well if you're interested. This is the Glaminatrix Nearly Natural palette, and if I don't use a shimmer from the Sugar and Spice, I may use a shimmer from this one because I know I love the shimmers in this just more than the Lunar Beauty formula. And I'm thinking if I'm going blushy, maybe either Nearly Natural or Unveiled. One of these two shimmers would be great. I have not yet, in practicing my makeup, I think I've got the complexion down of what I want to do for that day, but I haven't combined those two palettes because I just recently kind of got the idea to even combine them. So I was going back and forth and was like, should I use this one or this one? And then it just hit me like, wait, I don't have to pick one or the other. I can just do my favorite formulas of each palette. So I want to trial that a little bit, but those two or a combination of those 3 is going to be my wedding makeup. And then the most used palette so far this year is the Gourmand Girls Haunted palette. Now, I think this one is the one that is on sale like big time right now. If you are interested in this color story, the formula is wonderful, and I love the ghosts and the artwork and the doodles by the bunny, just concepts that she does for Gourmand Girls. This is one of them, since it says Doodles by the Bunny X Gourmand Girls on it. But this one, the reason I've used it so much, honestly, just being straight up, it's because it was in a Deck of Panning series prompt. I'll leave that playlist if you're interested. So because this was in a project, it got used 10 times because that was my goal, and it was hard to do. So I would not have hit 10 times on that palette if it weren't in that project. And if that were the case, my second most used palette would be my first most used, and that would mean I'm consistent with last year so far. So will that one end up being the most used? We'll see by the end of the year. I did this last year too, where after 6 months I looked at what my most used palettes were, and then I checked again at the end of the year, and a couple of them were the same, but a lot of them were different by the end of the year. So I will probably revisit this to tell you guys at the actual end of 2024 what palettes overall I used most in the year. I will be super curious to see where the Glaminatrix Nearly Natural lands on that, because even though it's my second most used palette right now, I can't tell you the last time I used it. Like, it's been a minute since I used that. So will I have moved on to other things? Will I gravitate back towards it? That is the question. So yeah, guys, let me know, what do you think is the most used palette in your collection right now, recently of 2024? I would love to know. Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much if you made it all the way to the end of this video, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Bye!